from Mueller's investigative team, but we find out December 4th that took place publicly. I kind of understand that. If that had drifted into the jet stream, perhaps we wouldn't be into the middle of this controversy. But what about if his hands are in so many things, and I'm not touched them all by any means, but if he has his hands in this many things, what about the fruit of the poisonous tree? This is the reverse of this. This is the voids of the fruit of the poisonous tree. And I'm looking at what was reported this morning. I just took a picture of the television set on my iPhone just so that we all know what I'm talking about here. A quote from August 6, 2016 text, Lisa Page to Peter Strzok, and they're talking about President Trump. And maybe you're meant, she's speaking to Peter Strzok, her lover, I hear, and maybe you're meant to stay where you are because you are meant to protect the country from that menace. And Peter Strzok's response is, thanks. It's absolutely true that we're both very fortunate. And of course, I'll try and approach it that way. I just don't know it will be tough. It will be tough at times. I can protect our country at many levels. Not sure if that helps. Does that sound like a declaration that he would use his job to leverage his work against the President of the United States?
Congressman, the Inspector General's investigation includes interviews of numerous witnesses, and I anticipate, hopefully in the near future, we'll have a report with the Inspector General's conclusions.
Would you have any opinion on the lack of the fruit from the poisonous tree that might have been erased by Peter Strzok?
Well, as a legal matter, Congressman, I can tell you that if evidence is tainted, then that would raise a concern for me. But typically, our cases would be prosecuted based upon witnesses and documents and not upon the agent, unless the agent personally were a witness in the case. But that would certainly concern us if there were any tainted evidence in the case.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenstein. I appreciate it. And I yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Johnson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your service to the country, Mr. Rosenstein. Based on the language in your special counsel order, or your order appointing the special counsel, does the special counsel have the authority to investigate any individual who may have obstructed the investigation that FBI Director Comey confirmed on March 20th of this year, which was the Russian interference with the 2016 elections?
The special counsel does have authority to investigate any obstruction related to his jurisdiction.
Does this authority to investigate possible obstruction include investigating President Trump?
I hope you won't take an inference one way or the other, Congressman, but as I've explained, that's simply something we do not do. We do not discuss who may or may not be under investigation.
Well, I'm not asking you whether or not the president is under investigation. I'm just simply asking whether or not your order appointing the special counsel authorizes the special counsel to investigate the president.
It authorizes him to investigate anybody who there is predication to believe obstructed justice.
And that includes the president, correct?
It will include anybody who was suspected of obstructing justice.
All right. Do you think that it's appropriate for the president to comment publicly on any pending investigation?
Congressman, the decision about whether people in political positions comment on investigations is not mine. My responsibility is to ensure that our investigations are not impacted improperly by any opinion, whether it be a member of Congress or anybody else.
Well, it would not be appropriate for you to comment about any pending investigation. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
And the president is the chief law enforcement officer. He considers himself in the country. It would be inappropriate for him then to comment on a pending investigation, would it not?
Congressman, I believe over the years there have been presidents who have made comments about investigations, and it's simply not my responsibility to make that decision.
Well, do you think it's appropriate for the president to publicly call for the investigation of specific individuals?
I'm simply not going to comment on that, Congressman, other than to tell you it's my responsibility, along with the Attorney General, to make sure that those decisions are made independently by the department based upon the facts and the law.
Has the president ever contacted you to urge action in any pending investigation?
Congressman, I have not received any improper orders, and I'm not going to be talking about particular communications I may have with, which are appropriate communications with the White House.
Well, what would be your legal basis for refusing to answer the question whether or not the president has contacted you to urge any action in any pending investigation? What would be your legal basis for refusing to answer that question?
Congressman, this is not a partisan issue. I worked on an investigation where the previous president encouraged the department to do an expeditious investigation. And so the question for me is, are we or are we not appropriately making an independent determination, regardless of who comments on it?
Well, my question, I respect your question, but my question is, has the president ever contacted you to urge action in any pending investigation? Yes or no?
I have nothing further to say about it, Congressman.
So you're going to refuse to answer a question from a member of Congress seeking to do oversight?
No, I've told you, Congressman, that I have not received any improper orders, and I'm simply not going to talk about communications. I think in every administration, the senior law enforcement officers have to be able to communicate with the president and his officials about appropriate matters within their responsibility and not comment on it. So you shouldn't draw any inference. It's simply not appropriate for me to talk about communications I may have with the administration.
So it would be,
I would tell you if something happened that was wrong, if somebody ordered me to do something that was improper, but that has not happened.
well, it would be improper for the president to ever contact you about initiating an investigation of someone, would it not?
We've discussed this previously, Congressman. Presidents have commented publicly, and
No. My question is, it would be improper for a president to contact you about initiating an investigation of someone. It would be improper, wouldn't it?
it would be improper for the president to order me to conduct an investigation that wasn't justified.
It would be improper for the president to ask you to initiate an investigation, would it not?
If it were for improper reasons, yes.
And so is it your testimony today that the president has not asked you to investigate someone specifically?
Congressman, I understand what you're getting at, but as I said, I was in the last administration, and the president of the last administration commented on matters, and there's nothing wrong about that.
You're being very artful in
No, I'm not.
Jumping around and evading answering my question, and so you're not going to answer it. And
I'm not evading.
That's unfortunate. Are you afraid of President Trump firing you?
No, I'm not, Congressman.
With that, I will yield back.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gohmert, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for being here, Mr. Rosenstein.
Thank you.
Did you ever tell Special Counsel Robert Mueller that, in essence, everything you do must not only be just and fair, but must also appear beyond reproach? Anything like that?
In essence, yes.
Yes. Well, since Attorney General Sessions recused himself, you are effectively the boss of the special counsel and staff, correct?
It is correct that I am effectively the boss.
Okay. Well, we all know that FBI Director James Comey was fired. We know of your letter. We know of your public statements. But here's the question. To your knowledge, who first proposed the idea of firing James Comey as FBI Director?
Congressman, I'm not going to comment on that. The president has explained that he made the decision, and I'm not going to comment beyond that.
At the time you wrote the letter suggesting a firing, did you believe what you put in that letter?
Yes, I did.
All right. If an FBI employee goes into a meeting and, as part of his job, in furtherance of his job, someone in the government, and he comes out and he makes a memo memorializing the meeting, perhaps in the future, past memory refreshed, is that memo DOJ property?
Generally, Congressman, I would think that it would be. It might depend on what's in the memo, what the subject matter is, but generally the answer would be yes.
Well, in the FBI employment agreement, there's a statement that says that, and this is the person agreeing to work for the FBI, all information acquired by me in connection with my official duties with the FBI and all official material to which I have access remain the property of the United States of America. I will not reveal by any means any information or material from or related to FBI files or any other information acquired by virtue of my official employment. If you make a memo of things that were discussed as part of your job, then it would be a violation of that agreement to send that to someone to leak to the press. Isn't that right?
It well may be.
All right. In the question I'm about to ask, I'm not asking what you may have told Attorney General Jeff Sessions. I don't want to know any words used or ideas conveyed nor sources referenced. In fact, I'm asking a question that could not possibly have any other answer other than one of two words. That would be yes or no. You are completely free to wholly answer this question with one of those two words, and neither word is privileged, confidential, or classified. Here's the question. As Attorney General Jeff Sessions' deputy, did you give Jeff Sessions any advice regarding whether or not he should recuse himself? Yes or no?
No. Can I give a little bit of an explanation, Congressman? I appreciate you asking that question. I wasn't there. I was confirmed, I believe, on April 25th and took office on April 26th. I was not there at the time of the recusal.
Right. And you ever talk to Bruce Orr?
Yes.
And wasn't he 4 doors down from yours?
You know, I haven't counted, but he was down the hall.
All right. And of course, he's been demoted over the relationship with Fusion GPS. And then, of course, we found out that his wife, Nellie, was a Russian expert and was paid by Fusion GPS through summer and fall of 2016, helping the Clinton campaign